Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Valvoline and Sparesbox. Don't forget Benny 5 on checkout. This week, we're back on the Pajero Mini. I did say a while ago we were going to do the time belt kit and the water pump. We finally have secured those parts from Japan, so we're going to dive in. It has actually been quite a mission to find all the correct parts, so fingers crossed we do have everything to do the job today. Yeah, we're going to rip this thing apart, and hopefully by the end of the day we'll have a new time belt kit and the car will still drive. So let's give it a go. First, we're going to spill coolant everywhere. I can't even get my hand in from the top. Why do I like K cars again? That'll do me. It's not going horrendously. I'm almost confused. Mitsubishi overflow bottles always look the same. Wow, it's like tiny. It's so light, like that's legitimately the lightest radiator I've ever picked up. Of course you'd put the top cover under the bottom cover. Why would you not do that? That's logical. It literally looks like a mini 4G, hey. Please fit. Yes. Wow, so like cheaply made. K-car things, man, everything's just like super budget 5,000. It's not, it's like pressed steel. Like it's kind of, you look at it and it's been die pressed. See how it's radiused, and it also, so the time belt runs directly against that. You can see by the shiny marks. But then they've kind of, you can see it's been stamped, not machined out of a casting or something. Oh, balance shaft, yucky. Oh, and that's what that other oil seal is going to be for. Where do they time to? Man, that water pump's a piece of piss. That's so good. It's tiny though, that's ridiculous. I can't believe the whole water pump's held on with these tiny little bolts. Actually, you know what? Subaru water pumps are held on with 6mm bolts as well. So the new water pump actually is designed to be used with silicone or sealant. So those little grooves there typically mean that you just use a thin film of sealant, whereas the previous one was designed with a water pump gasket in mind. So obviously there's been a revision. This is still a genuine Mitsubishi pump too, worth mentioning that. So obviously they've revised them over years because the casting is definitely different. However, they are obviously interchangeable. Same offset and whatnot, so still get the job done. Now it's worth mentioning not all time belts are directional. However, I find a good habit is to just put it, if it's not marked as being directional, basically put it on the engine so that you can read the writing or the writing's facing towards you. And I've never had an issue with that. It is kind of older engines that seem to have directional belts rather than the more modern stuff. But yeah, I find that using that method where being able to read the markings on the belt while you're standing in the front of the engine should do you well and not have any dramas. So belt on. We've got the new timing belt kit fully installed now, all the idlers and everything's in. However, I did want to kind of point out the time mark. So if anyone actually is going to do this at home in their Pajero Mini, you've got a good reference, because I couldn't actually find a video in English to find all the information for this. Fortunately, I did find one that pointed to the mark, so you could still kind of fumble your way through if you knew what you were looking at. However, anyone who's going to attack this, whether it be in Australia or the US or whatnot, now that these are becoming pretty popular globally rather than just being in Japan, I thought I'd just show you guys the time marks. So both of the cam marks are the line on the pulley, and then you've got two little notches on this top mount. And then on the bottom, there's a very small notch in the lower sprocket and a nub on the back of the oil pump housing. So you line those two up at the top and then the single one at the bottom. Interestingly, from what I can find, there is no balance or mark for the oil pump, which is the bottom one on the right or the left, depending on how you're looking at it. But yeah, I couldn't find any reference to that. I did actually have a look at a parts catalog to confirm if there was a balance shaft in there, and from what I can tell, there is no balance shaft, which means there doesn't need to be a specific timing point on that pulley. So yeah, it all seems to go back together pretty well. I've just put some Permatex grey on our water pump. because as I mentioned, the factory OEM pump doesn't actually use a gasket. I did work out after previously discussing that it did have an aftermarket GMB water pump and all aftermarket timing kit. So we've actually put all original Mitsubishi parts back into it now. So hopefully the thing will be in service for many years to come. We'll keep chucking it back together and hopefully we'll get it running and driving pretty soon. We'll put some coolant in it, fill my socks up, and then we'll be sweet. Hey. What's another episode in the bag? The Pajero Mini's got some more love. We're going to be doing heaps of stuff on this thing going forward. There's all sorts of parts turning up. There's literally another box has arrived as we've been shooting today. So heaps of stuff's going to be happening with this. We're going to be rectifying the original lift and how bad that was. We're going to put some lifted springs in a future episode. All sorts of other bits and pieces going to be happening. Hopefully we can work out something with deleting the nudge bar and the fog lights. Obviously they're now not on the car. However, I'm not stoked with the current sort of look with obviously having the holes in the bumper and then the gaps here, so still need to work that out. I did buy a later Pajero Mini bumper bar and unfortunately that's not going to work the way I'd anticipated. So hopefully there was an option to have no nudge bar and fog lights, because after removing the nudge bar it's very clearly just a piece of chromed exhaust pipe, so it's going to do absolutely nothing other than steady some spotlights. So yeah, I want to look into that. So yeah, there's going to be all sorts of stuff happening. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.